Imagine a place where the rock is not just earth, but the eternal home of the gods, sculpted by the hands of an ancient people 2,500 years ago. In the wild heart of Tushia, hidden among deep gorges and lush vegetation, lies a city that defies time, a place where the boundary between nature and architecture disappears, and silence tells stories of a lost civilization. Today, I will take you to Norchia, the Italian Petra, a journey into the deepest mystery, an invitation to explore a forgotten page of history, where the past is carved in stone itself. Prepare to discover a place that is not just archaeology but pure emotion, a silent dialogue with those who came before us, and a warning about the greatness and fragility of human civilization. Norchia is not just any city, nor is it a simple archaeological site. It is known as the City of the Dead, a name that immediately evokes a sense of mystery and solemnity. This monumental necropolis was carved directly into the volcanic rock, tuff, which characterizes the landscape of Tushia. We are not talking about buildings erected on land, but about architecture extracted from the earth itself, an idea that is almost alien to our modern conception of construction. It is located exactly there in the most untamed and wild heart of this region, a place where nature is still the undisputed protagonist and man becomes humbled by its majesty. It is no coincidence that many call it the Italian Petra, a comparison that does justice to its uniqueness and its ability to fascinate and enchant anyone who dares to venture into its silent gorges. It is a site that not only displays the remains of an ancient civilization, but completely envelops you, making you part of an experience that goes beyond a simple tourist visit. The landscape that greets visitors to Norcia is nothing short of breathtaking. It's not a glossy postcard view, but something wilder, more primordial. You find yourself facing a deep canyon, which opens up like a dramatic cleft in the heart of the earth, its sheer walls shrouded in an impenetrable green blanket of vegetation. Here, trees cling tenaciously to the rock, roots weave through cracks, and sunlight barely filters through, creating an almost dreamlike atmosphere. This is not a manicured park, it's a wild and powerful embrace of nature. But the most surprising aspect are the tough walls, which are not simple geological formations. They have been shaped over millennia, smoothed by wind and water, but they have also been, and this is the crucial point, transformed by Etruscan hands into gigantic rock temples. Imagine walking into this canyon and looking up to see not just rock but carved building facades, imposing portals, blank windows opening into the void of the wall. They are not isolated constructions but rather an extension of the mountain itself. To understand the true grandeur of Norcia, we must immerse ourselves in Etruscan art and ingenuity. Here we find no staircases built of wood or brick but stone steps, carved directly into the living rock. These stairways, sometimes narrow and steep, others wider and more ceremonial, ascend upwards as if to connect earth to heaven, and at the end of these climbs the true wonders are revealed, the monumental tombs. These are not simple pits in the ground, but real funerary buildings, some with facades that imitate temples with columns and pediments, others in the shape of a cube, imposing stone cubes that rise from the wall. They are a tangible testimony of a civilization that has defied time, and which, despite the millennia and the incessant corrosive work of the elements, still remains there, stoic, to tell its story. The decorations on these tombs, although largely eroded and worn away by wind and rain, still reveal a refined artistry. You can glimpse friezes, bas reliefs, and sometimes, if you're lucky, traces of color that once adorned these majestic eternal homes. Every single detail, every sculpted line testifies not only to the artistic skill of the Etruscans, but also to a deep and complex spirituality, a way of seeing life and death that was intrinsically linked to their land. The Etruscans had an almost mystical relationship with nature. They saw the earth not only as a soil from which to draw sustenance, but perceived the very faces of their gods within the earth. The rock was not only raw material for their constructions, but was considered the eternal home, a material which, due to its hardness and longevity, was perfect for guarding the sleep of their ancestors. The tombs were not built next to the landscape, but were intentionally merged with it. There was no separation between the work of man and the work of nature. The necropolis of Norcia is not a collection of tombs, but a single grandiose sanctuary dug into the mountain. This fusion created an indissoluble bond between life and the afterlife, between the world of the living and that of the dead. For the Etruscans, death was not the end, but a continuation, a journey to another dimension, and their tombs were portals, points of transition, where the soul of the deceased could rest awaiting rebirth or another existence. Nokia spectacularly embodies this profound spiritual connection between man, nature, and the divine. Walking among these stone sculptures, one has the sensation of touching an ancient faith, a way of being that placed man in harmony and not in conflict with the surrounding environment. The atmosphere in Norcia is something that completely envelops you. As soon as you descend into the canyon, the noise of the modern world fades away. The prevailing atmosphere is one of profound silence, interrupted only by the rustling of leaves or the song of some bird hidden among the vegetation. It is a silence that is not empty, but full of history, loaded with echoes of a distant past. There is a sense of sacredness that permeates the entire place, almost as if one were walking in an open air cathedral, whose naves are the rocky gorges and whose apses are the facades of the tombs. Nature has almost regained its grip here. Lush wild vegetation envelops the structures, tree roots insinuate themselves into the cracks in the rock, and moss covers the ancient stones. This is not a sign of abandonment, but rather of a slow and inexorable integration, where man's work has been reabsorbed into the natural cycle. The wind, when it blows, is not just air moving, it is a voice that, whispering between the niches and portals, tells stories of a remote past, secrets that date back to 2,500 years ago when the Etruscans ruled these lands. It's an almost meditative experience where time seems to stand still. You sense a unique and captivating allure, a sense of timelessness that makes you reflect on the transience of existence and the eternity of stone. Norchia is not a place to be visited in a hurry. It is a place that encourages deep reflection and, for many, a form of personal discovery, a connection with something larger and older than ourselves. But there is a challenge, a shadow that looms over this wonderful place: time. As monumental and unshakable as these tombs may seem, they are not immune to erosion. Every drop of rain, every gust of wind, every cycle of freezing and thawing takes away a tiny fragment of what was once Etruscan glory. What we see today is a trace, a faded imprint of a civilization that did not leave us many written texts, but which carved its history in rock. The problem is precisely this: how can we preserve such a vast site, so integrated into nature? How can we still reveal its secrets when every day small parts of the decorations crumble, and nature, although an accomplice to its beauty, is also its slowest but most inexorable enemy? The exploration of Norchia therefore becomes a race against time, an attempt to decipher what remains, to reconstruct a puzzle whose pieces are slowly falling apart. It's a journey not only through space but also into the minds of the Etruscans. It's not easy to imagine the life that pulsated in this canyon, the ceremonies, the funeral rites, the processions that accompanied the deceased to their final resting places. However, the very challenge of this conservation and understanding makes Norchia even more precious. Archaeologists continue to study, document, and seek new techniques to slow the degradation, but the essence of Norchia lies in its wild nature and its ability to humble us in the face of antiquity. The culmination of this experience in Norchia comes when you understand that you are not faced with individual monuments but with a single gigantic sculpture. It is the moment when the mind frees itself from the modern concept of building and accepts that here architecture and the mountain have become one, an inseparable entity. Norchia is not just an archaeological site but a true integrated work of art, where the work of human hands merges with the primordial force of nature in a sublime harmony. The canyon walls are not only the foundation but the very canvas on which the Etruscans painted their vision of the afterlife. This is the true climax, the awareness of being in a unique place in the world, where every step resonates with history and every glance reveals an ancient mystery. It is a monument not built but revealed by the rock. Ultimately, Norchia is not just a place to visit with the eyes, but an experience to be lived with all the senses. It is a tangible testament to the greatness of the Etruscan civilization, a people who left a legacy not only in objects and finds, but in a landscape transformed into art and spirituality. Here, architecture and mountains become a single unified entity, a timeless dialogue between the ingenuity of man and the majesty of nature. It is an extraordinary work where every element integrates perfectly, creating an open air masterpiece that continues to speak of itself through the millennia. Anyone who visits is left with a profound sense of wonder and an equally profound mystery, a feeling that digs into the soul and makes you want to know more. Nokia is a gateway to a distant past, a call to contemplate the eternal beauty and fragility of life, a place where history is not only read but felt, breathed, and almost touched. If this journey through time has fascinated you, don't miss our next video on another mystery of Tusha.